Hi, friends. Welcome. So today we are here with Jennifer Wilson. She's a local mom of three and the executive director of Modern Family Alliance. This is a local organization that's focused on outreach and creating safe and affirming environments and connections amongst LGBTQ plus parents and their kids. So, Jennifer, one thing I love that you said in your bio was that your family embodies, you said, quote, embodies the simple truth that love and care define a family, not its structure. And I thought that was just
Thanks.
lovely, lovely. So, Jennifer, first of all, thank you for being here. Summertime, it's crazy town, and we appreciate you
It's,
taking a chunk of time out of your day. So, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Sure, sure. Let's start a little bit with just with your story. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe your upbringing, and how your personal experiences kind of shaped your values and the way you see the world?
Yeah. So I was raised in Kansas City. My parents are still in Johnson County in the house that I grew up in. So there are six of us total. I have three siblings, and then my parents, who I am embarrassingly close to still. I
Uh-huh.
talk to them more than I talk to anybody outside of my own home.
Yeah.
So very, very close, always growing up. Um, My parents are very social people, really like to entertain, always have just had a lot of people around. So I feel like they gave us all a really positive outlook on life. Very like everybody's always welcome at our table, and the more the merrier. My dad loves to throw a party in a small space because it forces connection. So
Yeah.
his recommendation to me as I've gotten older and gotten into this is, that's a little big. You should really try to like keep people together. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, they just never, we weren't, we didn't talk a lot about things like politics, other social justice issues, but there was never any negative talk, and
Right.
always kind of quick to like shut down um, slurs or just side comments if something was being said around us, kind of very quick to address that.
Right.
Um, and they, as far as like their philanthropic side, like I said, they love a good time. So they were always going to fundraisers, staying involved in that way. And they're just really great people, great examples of like very good friends. I think my mom's best quality is just being able to show up no matter what, and seeing that all the time. Like, especially if somebody's going through a hard time, it was always really amazing to me to like, those are hard times to show up for people.
Right.
And it was never a hesitation. I feel like she was always the first person at someone's house. So kind of keeping that in mind as I've gotten older, how important that is, and how to keep people like that around,
Yeah.
really
Hmm.
valuing the people in your life that do show up, that are reliable. Um, and then I feel like my dad really instilled a lot of work ethic in the same way of just like, you've made this commitment, you're going to go. My first job was a job at a restaurant that they knew the owner, and they
Hmm.
dropped me off at the back door and said, "We got you a job. You're bussing tables here.
Yeah.
Go inside and ask for Denise." And I was like, "Okay, great." And I stuck with that job for like 3 years, and I stayed in restaurants. I got a food and beverage degree, so I was
Oh,
with hospitality. Like
interesting.
that was really my, and I think my parents met in a restaurant, so they were working together. They didn't stay in that, even like they were out of it by the time I was born, but there was just something about that, like meeting new people all the time, new
Hmm.
faces.
Hmm.
Um, and I think they've also, like when I go to networking events, I think of things when I get nervous to meet new people, it's always a like, well, what would they do? Because my parents were like, we were at a restaurant as kids, and they had already made best friends with the table next to us.
Yeah.
And we thought, like, well, do you always have to, what are we doing here? Why are
Right.
we? But that's just who they were. We were on, we'd go on
Mhm.
vacations, and they knew everybody around them. So it was inspiring, more so, less embarrassing, more inspiring as I got older, and I recognized that that's really hard for people to learn how to do that and make those relationships.
Right. Yeah.
So I keep that in mind.
Where are you in the lineup of the six kids? God bless
So
you.
No,
there's
three
four
kids.
kids.
What?
Yeah,
What? Six people. Three.
six
Oh,
people totally.
it just got a little okay.
Yeah, no,
It de-escalated a little bit. Four
I'm the
kids. Sarah has four
second of,
kids.
yeah, it, it would be a lot. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
no, I'm one of four kids. I'm the third in the lineup, but there is a
Okay.
9-year gap between my older brother and I, and then the other
Okay.
two are very close in age.
Yep.
So I very much have the like
Oldest
um
child type.
oldest child, yes.
That's so cool. How
Cool.
interesting. Awesome.
Yeah. And my mom had an in-home daycare when we were growing up.
Oh,
Oh,
So
wow.
there
yeah.
were always a bunch of kids around, and I was the oldest of them too. So it does feel like I grew up in actually
Uh-huh.
more than a six-kid family.
Right.
Yeah. So it sounds like you had a really positive, childhood. But I know
Definitely.
like coming out can be a really complex journey. So can you talk about that experience for you,
Yeah,
and maybe how it impacted what you're doing now?
definitely. I'm happy to. Yeah, I mean, the hardest thing for me is the internal struggle, like before coming out. And I think that that's something that most people who have been through this journey into a lot of different identities, figuring it out on your own and having and like holding that in and the fear and the uncertainty is definitely where the challenge starts. I think whether or not you feel supported or close to people,
Right.
I have a incredibly supportive um, friends, family, my whole network. But I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I wasn't, you're not sure of anything. And I think that really to this day, the thing that like makes me the most emotional is that I can still remember that fear of like my parents specifically, because I think because we're so close, what if? What if this
Hmm.
changes how they see me? What if this changes our relationship?
Right.
Um, so that was hard. That took some time. I did not tell my parents. A lot of people I came out when I was 21, so I was very fortunate to at that point I was old enough to have access to a lot of the parts of the community that I wouldn't have if I was younger.
Hmm.
um, I had a boyfriend in high school who we very smartly decided we were better off as friends.
Yeah.
He came out about the same time as I did,
Okay.
so this is years
Interesting.
later. We had maintained our friendship, um, and still we were spending time together kind of in the same circles of friends.
Right.
So when questions were being asked is really what I remember more, is people like, it seems like something might be going on with you and this other person. That he and I had each other, and pretty quickly like that was the person who I like said it out loud to first. And he was like, yeah, me too. Like there had been conversations about like, well, maybe, well, I don't know, or I'm open to, like, I wasn't shutting it down, but I hadn't actually said it outright.
Hmm.
Right.
Um, but like I said, because of my age, I was pretty quick to be ingrained in like the community. I was able to meet friends. Representation means so much. It's so different when you see other people going through things and experiencing things. So that was really beneficial to me, I think, to be, the age that I was. Same with my friends. There are a couple, my parents did not have a hard time. They were super. My mom and I went out and got Mexican food and margaritas. Like I was terrified in the car and just spit it out. And she was like, "Oh, well, this changes our whole day. Let's go do something." And I asked her to tell my dad for me
Yeah.
because I was too scared. And she was like, "I don't think I can do that. I really think that you should, and I think it's going to be fine." Um, and it was. His biggest concern was how other people would treat me,
Hmm.
Right.
and how sad that made him feel for society, not for me,
Right.
but that he, was worried about me and just really truly sorry that there were things he knew he couldn't stop from happening, or,
Yep.
things that you can stop from hearing. But we grow up, kids still now, you can't, probably worse now because of social media and access to news, hearing the negative things for so long just does make an impact. And there
Yeah.
isn't any amount of support that will take away that internalized homophobia and the way that we think we should be doing things.
Yep.
Hmm.
So it just I am just reminded of like why important, or how important it is to have people out in the community being very open and honest for those at a young age, so they have a like, it's not a problem, because I know all these people that it's not a problem for.
Right. Right. Right.
um but yeah, I think getting into the community and doing volunteer work and making new friends really helped that piece of it.
So you kind of led into my next question. So my question was, what could have sparked your passion for advocacy and for the LGBTQ plus families support, that kind of thing? So because I was obviously you went through the experience, but I don't think that necessarily always leads to advocacy work. So
Sure.
what was the difference for you there in wanting to go down that path?
So I think because I saw my family involved in fundraising, that kind of thing from a pretty early age, with my food and beverage experience, I was first off going to events. The thing about the queer community is that we have historically, as far back as, we have books and records, taken care of each other. Like the community has taken care of itself. Yes, there are, a growing number of allies that are helping in things now. But it still usually starts definitely at the community level, where it's people thinking of their friends and what can we be doing for ourselves? What is this going to take? Whether that's protesting for yourself or starting organizations to help people who aren't receiving care because they have been left out of so many places and discriminated against historically. Right. Having to create spaces because you are not allowed to be yourself in those different areas, whether that's professional, social, healthcare, the whole thing. So there are a lot of opportunities, which is, I think, a very cool part of the community. Yeah. There are plenty of times to show up for a fundraiser for a softball team or a nonprofit organization where you're constantly meeting new people. So I was doing that just because it was fun. It was a reason to go out and have a good time. But because of my food and beverage degree, I was asked to volunteer for a few things.
That's
and
how
then
they get you.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Who has expertise in that?
And I was like, yeah, sure.
Jennifer.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Every time.
Right. And you can't do those kinds of parties without food.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
yes, it was a very natural fit for me in that it wasn't, and it didn't start with a commitment to a certain cause. It was just like what fits on the calendar, what's coming up. And then when my restaurant management turned into catering management, just like that's where my professional trajectory ended up. I actually started being the caterer for events, which gave me access, I guess, to decision makers a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Sitting at the table and really making the big decisions, not the like, hey, can you show up and help us serve food? But we're planning this event. Can you sit at the table and help us figure out the best way to do it? And I loved that. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, this is really cool. I really like that. And then getting to know the people who were truly like the heart behind the mission, and having a better understanding of what they were doing after. Mm-hmm. The fun part is over. Now you get to go to work. Yeah. And what happens in that space.
So you're talking about mission. Are you talking about Modern Family Alliance?
Not necessarily.
Oh, okay. And other things you were involved with, other groups. Okay. Okay.
And being at events, where you're hearing all of the different, when you're at a lot of different events, you hear the different stories of the why people are doing those things. Why is this organization, why was it created? All of that. Mm-hmm. So no, just kind of having a passion for the philanthropic side of life and how that benefits how you can benefit so many different people. Yeah. From, different walks of life. So that's where just overall advocacy. I family support, definitely from my personal experience. Mm-hmm. It was so challenging that as far as my coming out process seemed super easy. Like, yep, this is me. This is who I am. I pretty immediately shut down the thought of becoming a parent. Like that that felt, complicated because I had never really seen it. Right. Even in the, I'm of the Ellen Show, Will and Grace era of like television representation. Seeing queer people with parents was not a thing at all. Yeah. So it felt very selfish. Like knowing how hard it was to be in society the way we are, listening to the rhetoric, carrying the weight of all of these people think all of these terrible things about
Right.
me.
Right.
My parents, when they had me, didn't know that I was going to be gay.
Mhm.
So that's different. Me bringing a family into this
Mm.
and knowing that they are going to be treated differently just didn't really feel like a good idea. It didn't feel fair to them.
Yeah.
And so I saw Rosie O'Donnell did this family cruise. There was like Rosie Family Vacations for a while in the early 2000s. And there was a documentary, I think maybe right when Netflix came out. And I watched it over and over and over again because it was all of these families that they had brought together on this cruise ship. And it was very personalized as far as their stories go and how they created their families. So that was incredibly impactful as far as like maybe opening the door like this, maybe this is a possibility. And then I saw Zach Walls, who's now a legislator in Iowa, but he gave a speech about having two moms in, I don't know, 2010, 2011. And it was when they were making a decision on gay marriage. And it just listening to him at probably 17 or 18 years old speak about really how his family wasn't different, how he had this amazing upbringing by these two beautiful, strong women,
Right.
and that he had accomplished all of the things, and he was very proud of that. Really, those two things kind of sunk in. And then my wife, in like the most lesbian fashion ever, we talked about having kids on our first date like 15 years ago. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe.
Okay.
Like this is, yeah. Because she was pretty set on it. Her best friend had a daughter when they were in college, and she was very involved in helping her from a very young age. So she just thought, like, I've really enjoyed, this side of like seeing the side of parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she was pretty special. So I thought, okay, yes. But the struggle is still there, and it's such
Oh,
a complicated process that making that the focus and trying to help people avoid some of the things that have happened to us along the way and that still do. I feel like I'm still
Right.
learning. New things come up all the time, but what can we do to navigate this together as a group and help each other out? I think parents in general supporting each other is so important, but when you have very unique challenges,
yeah.
Oh,
um
yeah.
So I'm curious how this is not on our list, but like
Lucky you.
the kind of just the arc of politics and how things go
mhm.
um, for your group and for yourself. Like, how do you ride those waves of, and I don't know how it feels for you, but just outside looking in, like two steps forward, like five back. And it just feels like,
Hmm.
man,
Yeah.
what a slog. Like, how
Yes.
is that from where you're sitting?
Yeah.
I think knowing that the progress has always still been made,
Right.
that yes, there has always been a pullback, but
Hmm.
that pullback still leads to positive change,
Yeah.
and that the progress has not ever just stopped. Where we are today would be unthinkable even 50 years ago,
Hmm.
Right.
even 20 years ago. I mean, it really is. It's so easy to see all of the negative things, especially right now, and to see things be pulled away, especially to see like rights being questioned, rights that have been given, even in consideration. But I know how resilient, especially this community is, but I think marginalized communities as a whole
Hmm.
have so much resiliency. And it takes a second, and you have to stop and take a deep breath and remember what it is that you are shooting for. What are we aiming for? What do we need? Like, what's the immediate need right now? Focus on that, and then know that the work's going to continue and
Yeah.
that the community is going to come together and probably be stronger because of this.
Yeah.
It's not fun. I wouldn't choose it. But I do
No.
tell myself a lot of the times my community relationships are getting stronger every day. The people around me and the changes that we're making and the younger generation now stepping up when it felt like they had taken this very like things are so easy.
Yeah.
You don't have to come out. It's no big deal.
Mhm.
And now you see that same group of people say like, oh, this isn't okay. Let me get in and try to like make changes for myself and my peers because they're facing something different. So just knowing that that's where we're
Yeah.
headed, staying
Yeah.
positive.
Okay, here's another off the grid question. It just popped into my head. Do you think that, and question for you too, do you think there will be a day where you don't come out, you just are who you are? Have you ever thought about that?
I have thought about it.
Like, you know what I mean?
Um,
Like, you have blonde hair or brown hair, you have this or this, you're attracted
Yeah.
to blah, blah, blah. Like, why is that?
I don't
Well, I know why.
know.
Unfortunately, I know why. But like,
Right.
I wonder if one day it doesn't have to be this like
Well, I've been seeing my own kids,
proclamation of
like the
like,
way I grew up, and I think I grew up in a positive, accepting environment, but like just the world around me.
right.
And
Hmm.
then, we've been to, same-sex weddings, and my kids are just like, okay. Like
Yeah.
there's no blip for them. So
Uh-huh.
that gives me hope too of like, I mean, I'm doing work with them, but it's also just like the air, not as much as it should be, but like it's more normalized to them of like
Hmm.
families are different and people are different and this wedding looked like that and this other wedding we went to looked like that. And
Right. Right.
Hmm.
um
But I think that you're doing work by doing that. Even though that it feels like that's what comes naturally to you and your family,
Mhm.
yeah.
we do some trainings around that for parents who are like, I want to make sure my kids know they can trust me. How do I do it? And it's a lot of
Yeah.
that stuff, where
Yeah.
um, it just is part of your life having those conversations saying, it doesn't have to be a like, if you are, I will be okay. It's not direct like that. It's that you are showing yourself as a supportive person to the community,
Yeah.
that you're doing the work, because saying it doesn't always, there are therapists who say like, I'm okay if you're gay, but that's harmful in the end if you
Right.
don't actually do, if you haven't done the work to understand how the community is different and how the struggles are different.
Right.
Right.
um,
Right.
so actually getting, doing actionable things says a lot. I think that coming out is will change and be different, but there still is that like, unless the percentages became 50% of people,
That's a good point.
you
Yeah.
are still
That's a
a
good point.
minority.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
You're
That's
doing
true.
something that's different than what your friends are doing.
Right.
um I think that the changes have been like the age that people come out, and it's because of the representation, and they can recognize that.
Sure.
It's not because, and I know, I'm sure you know this, but not because people are introducing this idea and
Yeah.
changing minds at a younger age,
Right.
but that they have the ability to say it and be supported by their friends, and they're not worried about what's going to say, and it then they avoid the probably 10 years of bad decisions that I made,
Right.
and carrying that like something about me is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
New Kids on the Block was a big thing when I was a kid
Oh yeah.
for my friends, and I did not understand it
Yeah.
and really didn't want to be part of the conversation. Like I was like, I can't talk to you guys about this anymore. I don't know why,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
but there were a lot of things like that where I was so uncomfortable and I just didn't understand it.
Yeah.
So not having to kind of suffer through those years, I think that's
Yeah.
what has changed and will continue to change.
Yeah. That's such a good point.
Yeah.
Um, Jennifer, kind of circling back to the Modern Family Alliance. I don't know. I never know whether to say the Modern Family Alliance or Modern Family Alliance. I'm saying it appropriately.
I do Modern Family Alliance,
Okay, perfect.
but I didn't
MFA,
name the
MFA,
MFA. Yes.
MFA. Can you tell us a little bit more about the organization and you serve as executive director. So is that a volunteer role? Is that a paid role? Like what does your role look like in that? And then what do you guys do as a group?
So it's a part-time paid role right now. I
Oh
am,
yeah.
but I'm the first staff member that the organization has had. So it
Awesome.
is a learning for all of us. Prior to that, I served on the board, and we really just have been focused on growth and visibility within the community and making sure that parents that could use support from us know that we exist, because for a
Yeah.
very long time and still today we
Yeah.
meet people who don't.
Yeah.
So what can we do to and when it was all volunteer. For 20 years, it was all volunteer, and volunteer parents with young kids who
Ooh,
had the best intentions.
right.
And we're looking for
And
ways
no
to
time.
connect.
Okay.
Right.
Or energy.
Yes, it sounds great when it's like, oh, I want to connect with parents, especially
Right.
queer parents. I have
Uh-huh.
a new child, but I also have a full-time job. And there's just not a lot that that group of people can do. Um, as far as getting outside of their circle so that the community at large is aware of it, so that that word of mouth is really making changes in who knows about you and who's talking about you outside of if you have been lucky enough to meet someone who's aware of it.
Right.
Hmm.
So we in 2023 created this position.
Okay.
So it's been two and
Smart.
a half
Yeah,
years.
okay.
So I am a full-time stay-at-home parent, which happened during the pandemic. It was very unexpected. That wasn't the path that I was on
Right.
at all. But I couldn't be more thankful. And then to have this, to get to do this all the time is really, really been amazing.
That's
The organization, so they started, it was really social workers and parents who had gone through the adoption process. Um, at that time, you weren't adopting as a couple, you were adopting as a single person and someone that had a roommate, and you were having to go through home studies. You still do have to go through home studies for the
yeah.
record, even
Right.
if you're married. But
Yeah.
it's a it's a very dehumanizing and frustrating process to go through. And even just finding the right providers, knowing that the person that you were paying to come do the home study was willing to look at you as a potential parent
Yeah.
and just respect you as another person. That was the challenge. So they the social workers kind of got together and said we should be introducing these families to each other. How do we do that?
Yeah.
And they started doing potluck picnics. And I think the first event they had like 200 people
Oh,
because
wow.
they had, these Rolodexes of all of the families that they had helped through the process over the years. Um, and then it has changed a little bit over the years. We still do the picnics. That's our favorite thing to do. That really is, where we connect with the most people. But we've added education into that. Right now, we do a Becoming Parents, which is a pathway to parenthood resource fair. So we bring in different providers from healthcare, legal, doulas, the social workers, all of those agencies that are affirming, because there's also
That's
still
so
legal
cool.
discrimination in like the foster adopt arena, especially.
Hmm.
So getting everybody in one place and then having a panel of parents that have kind of choosing all of these different ways, because there are a lot of different options, but there are very few trusted providers for each of those options.
Right.
So, and having a good understanding of kind of what you are getting into, the cost is pretty exorbitant. So it's important to know ahead of time what are all of those different things. If going through reproductive health care is very expensive. But if you don't know that you're also going to need to do an adoption afterwards, and to do the adoption, you have to do a home study. And those are all different people you're paying along the way, knowing that ahead of time, having all of the information, because it's not very readily available. It's different just on the Missouri and Kansas state line. Like, depending on which state you live in,
Hmm.
it's that's different, but it has changed. So I have three kids. My wife carried all three of them. So I legally adopted all three of them. And I did different types of adoption for two out of three, because
Interesting.
it changed, but it didn't, because there aren't really laws. It's a lot of gray area. It's a lot of, as cases are being tested across the country, it's really up to the lawyer to say, I think this is the best path for you. This seems to be keeping in line with the way things are going. But even the judges, we live in Johnson County, but we did our adoption in Wyandotte County because we were lucky enough to have a lawyer who knew in Wyandotte County, you're less likely to be told no. In Johnson County, there's a good chance they're going to deny you the adoption, and there's nothing that there's nothing that says they have to approve it. So depending on what judge you get. So all of those things, really making sure that, so for the organization, knowing the resources, knowing who to talk to, knowing who's keeping up with that. There are a lot of lawyers out there. Very few lawyers are paying attention to case law around the country and making their decisions on that. Healthcare providers. being a parent, especially being a pregnant person, you're so vulnerable.
Yeah.
If you are in a space, and we had a really hard time with our first, you can feel it when someone's uncomfortable with you.
Yeah.
And when you're in a place where you need to be the most vulnerable and the
Hmm.
most open and have, the closest relationship with this person, if you have the sense of like, I don't think this person really wants us to be here,
Yep.
it changes everything.
Yep.
And those are such hard decisions to make. And we also, as I've done this work, heard stories that are really terrible of just being like walked out of an office. Like, oh, yeah, no, never. Sorry that you were able to make this appointment, but we are not going to provide care for you. So that's a big part of it on the education side. And then just the need for a lot of people don't understand why I had to adopt all three of my kids.
Right.
So wanting the people that need that so badly to know that, because I see it online all the time where parents are talking on Facebook groups and giving advice to people without actually knowing. And I can look at it and say that is not good advice. That's not. A birth
Okay.
certificate doesn't help you.
Not to get into the weeds, but I'm thinking about this now. So,
Sure.
okay, so a man and a woman have a baby,
Mhm.
no adoption.
Well, because there's a
Well, especially
biological.
if
Because
they're
there's a biological.
Biological.
Okay. So
But
is that like the main, I know that's obviously a big deal,
no, no,
but is
no.
that the main
Here's
cap? Like I'm trying to figure out on paper, what is the breakdown here?
so
Like,
it
why do
doesn't
you need
make
to
sense.
adopt?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's the why we need to adopt. So, and it's not all, it depends on if you use a donor bank, the the person who donated has signed away their parental rights at that
Right.
time. You
Right.
do still need to go through it. Because marriage and a birth certificate do not guarantee you legal parentage. So if in the case of dissolution of marriage, so if you are going through a divorce and there is a challenge to custody, the biological parent has been given full custody,
Okay.
right? Like I said, there isn't a law. So what we're basing it on is what has happened, what are judges deciding, what decision has been made based on that. And there are very few cases that have, there's like one in Missouri, where a non biological parent who hadn't adopted was able to show enough proof to convince a judge that they should get partial custody. And it was like they had to go through the intent. We were married. We went through this process together. We chose this donor together. And sometimes that's not enough. A lot of times it's this is biology. That's, kind of end of the day. My wife and I used a known donor. So
Okay.
it's a friend of ours. We still have a great relationship with him. We're very lucky. That's a whole other story.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
That's cool.
in the cases, just any other adoption, he could not relinquish his parental rights until the kids were born. And at that time, he could have said, you know what, actually, they're kind of cute.
Yeah.
I would like to be their parent. And he absolutely would have had the right to do that. That's a risk that we took, and you would still be taking that risk. We are fortunate enough that he made the process very easy for us. But again, so there's dissolution of marriage, but there's also tragedy. If something happened to my wife,
Right.
the kids would go to the state. They would be going through this tragedy, and then they would go to the state, and the state would decide who the parent is, regardless of our marital status, regardless of anything else.
And that's if you had not formally
Yes.
adopted. Okay, got it, got it.
Yeah. So the formal adoption guarantees that there's nothing
Yeah.
that can change. But that's, we had to stand in front of a judge. My wife had to be asked, "Are you sure you want this person in their lives forever?" I mean, it's a thing, and we had the best side of it. I hope for people to have the experience that we had in that, even though I would never wish it for anybody.
Right.
But yeah, there are a lot of different, and the hard thing about it is, to your question of if it were a straight couple,
Mm-hmm.
if a straight couple is having problems conceiving on their own, a lot of people end up going to a donor bank, and it's
Right.
just not really talked about when they're going through the IVF process. It's, like maybe this is what we need to do. That that man who is not biologically related to the children does not have to go through the adoption process, and it has never been questioned in court.
Hmm.
So there is no on paper explanation at this point. The marriages are the same, the
Right.
process to get pregnant the same. It's truly just this couple's same sex and this one isn't. But biology is
This
totally taken out of that.
this is the dumbest comment you'll ever hear, but all I keep thinking is like, that's so discriminatory. I literally like,
Yeah.
keep thinking like that's so discriminatory. It's just
Sure.
I'm like, it's 2025. I don't know. I don't know. It's wild.
Yeah,
It's wild.
It's
it
a
is.
it's a
And
crazy
there
year.
It is
there
a
are a
crazy. We are
few
in a crazy year,
It's just
especially
this
now.
there are, I
timeline.
think, 7 states now that have made changes to their laws where
Okay.
if you're
Okay.
married, so there is progress. There are also certain states who are who have bills written. I don't know where they are as far as being introduced. That are removing the right to a second parent adoption or a step parent adoption, depends on which state you're in.
Okay.
But there are still legislators on the other end of that are saying we've given too much. We need to pull that back. And
Mm-hmm.
then,
Mm-hmm.
that ends up being people having to go out of state or move. It depends on where you are,
Right.
if you can even do your adoption out of state.
It's
Uh,
I feel like when
Go
people
ahead.
had to move to get married or
Yeah.
Mhm.
well,
We had to go get married. We had a wedding here, but before legalized marriage. So we had it like the whole thing, the friends and family. But
mm-hmm.
then when she got pregnant and we went to the lawyer was like, oh, you need to go actually get married. So my sister lives in California. So it worked out very well for us that we could go. But we did have to go get legally married in California to be able to do the adoption
Right.
here in Kansas. And that's a thing that, people are looking at right now is um, if they rolled back legalized marriage in the same way that they've rolled back Roe, what would
Mm.
happen is the states that have bans on the books or those that are putting those bans there because they are hopeful that that will happen,
Uh-huh.
Yep.
um, those marriages become invalid again. And you're back to, yes, doing all of this extra work just to get where you are, just to have your family.
Right. Like basic living, you know?
Yeah. The thing that we are okay with teenagers doing. And
Right.
Mm-hmm.
then sending them on their way and hoping that things are good.
Yep.
Yes. There's a lot of extra work that goes into it. And that's a big part of the, kind of heart of the organization is being around people who have been there and
Yeah.
Yeah.
understand it.
Yep.
Um, and I think my like passion for the queer community, obviously myself, but really it was like hearing everyone else's coming out story. When I was in my 20s, that's what it was when you met a new person.
Right.
And that's how you kind of determined how your relationship was or how you talk about things with somebody, knowing, how supportive their family is or not. And now it's how challenging was your process in becoming a parent? Where are you now? Where do you still need help? Are you, what school system are you in? How supportive is the school? How's your teacher? Those are the conversations that we're having that we wouldn't be having with other peers, regardless of how supportive somebody may be.
Right.
You just
Just
you
different
just don't know.
issues.
Exactly.
Yeah. So interesting.
Well, I'm sorry that you have to do all that extra work.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
Thanks.
for real.
it's
For real.
stupid.
It's dumb.
It is it
Nice.
is yes.
To summarize it in 3 words,
Right.
this is dumb.
I just, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a challenge. It is. It needs, but that's why I'm
Yeah.
here. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing and trying to make it as easy as we can while we're waiting for the next,
yeah.
barrier to be removed.
Right.
So it's a lot of work and complicated. So how do you balance like just being there for your family and self-care and things like that with like the fight?
Hmm.
I It's a work in progress. It's hard and it's a thing that I have had to try to be more intentional and mindful about is that I'm doing work that is so personal to me. For a while I was trying to separate myself from it and not think about in my mind, I had supportive parents.
Hmm.
You know, my wife and I have a good relationship. We have 3 beautiful kids. I'm fine. It's all about other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really having to recognize that, like, no, this was hard. This thing you went through was hard. This still having to come out all the time is hard. Still not knowing what's going to happen. Every year it's how are the teachers going to be with the kids? Who do we
Right.
know? Or what thing are they going to come home having heard from school or the playground or wherever, right? Like that,
Hmm.
those things don't change. So it's almost like I'm now trying to integrate that to make sure that I am also taking myself and those things into consideration with the work and
Yeah.
not like pushing my own stuff down because I don't feel like I need to.
Right.
Um,
Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's almost like the comparative suffering thing. It's like you guys
uh-huh.
have challenges with your three kids just living your lives.
Just, yeah, being parents.
Right. And that's important in addition to people that are, I don't know, legal issue, like serious legal issues or
Absolutely.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So just that. And then, I mean, self-care, I think for me right now is date nights, getting away from the kids,
Yeah.
saying, yes, we can go and do our own thing and
Yeah.
have our own lives. We have season tickets to the current, and we just bought 2 season tickets. So we've had them for a few years, and that's
Yeah.
a very intentional, like, the kids come with us every once in a while, but
Uh-huh. Not
yeah,
five. You bought
things like
two.
that where, yes, you
Uh-huh.
have to separate.
Hmm.
Like, I have to completely separate. I have a very strategic mindset because my job is visibility. How do I meet
Mhm.
more people? How do I get the information out there and bring more people into the fight? So
Yeah.
a lot of things that I'm doing, that's always still in the back of my mind. But so finding things like the current game where like I'm just going to sit here and enjoy this game
Yeah.
and that's it. Go to a
Yeah.
movie, kind of turn the rest of it off for a while.
Yeah.
Sarah and I could work on that.
Yeah.
I'm an
And no
expert
chill.
on that. I don't know.
It's just so hard. It's so hard to, I don't know. When you're passionate about things, it's hard to not be for like 2 hours.
Yeah. It's really hard to turn it off
Hmm.
for sure.
Yeah, that's really good. Okay, Jennifer, we could talk to you all day. This is
Yeah.
seriously amazing. So if somebody is listening right now and they are at the beginning of kind of their own journey with either coming out or adoption or any of the things that we've talked about, or maybe they want to start their own initiative of some kind, what advice would you offer them? Like, what do you
I
wish
think that
maybe somebody had told you?
there are always a lot of people out there like looking for ways to help. It's just a matter of like shutting down all of the negative things that you're hearing.
Mhm.
Find, if it's something that you are passionate about when it comes to advocacy or like wanting to start your own thing, or even just get involved, there is a space for everyone to do something to get connected. It could be as easy as like dropping off a case of bottled water to something like, no, we don't all have to be saviors and decision makers. It
Yeah.
it it needs a lot. The
Yeah.
work in general, there is a lot of need in a lot of different places, but my um, biggest thing is like just get involved, volunteer, figure out what one, maybe two things you're passionate about.
Yeah.
It's really hard not to consume everything right now and not know where to focus. And then that becomes so overwhelming. Then you don't want to do anything because how could I possibly tackle all of these terrible things
Right.
coming from every direction?
Hmm.
Right.
You really have to like focus your scope. What is it that you are trying to do with yourself? And same with, if you're starting to build your family and questioning it, focusing in on like what does that look like for you, not for the outside world, not what other people
Mhm.
are going to think or worrying about, what is that going to look like in 5 years, or am I ready? I don't think anyone ever is going to actually be ready. I don't think any of us were ready. And someone told me that actually when they were asking if we were going to have kids.
It's
Yeah.
great
I was like,
advice.
I think I need some more time. I don't have all these things in place. And she was like, no one
Yeah.
ever does.
Nope.
You will get ready. You
Yeah.
will make it work. And you're gonna have challenges the whole entire time. You're never gonna feel like you have like hit a finish line. And that's not the point.
Right.
Um, So just go with like what makes you the most comfortable and the most informed, and find either those people or those resources.
Yeah, yeah, that's wonderful. So we'll link to Modern Family Alliance, but I'm assuming people could reach out to you or the group through your
Absolutely.
guys' website. And I know you guys are on Facebook. We'll link to everything.
Mhm. They'll come to your potluck.
They'll come to your
Yeah.
potluck. Yeah.
Everything starts with a good potluck. I feel like, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really great. It's
We
really
have
great.
switched to catering it. That was a,
Uh,
yeah.
You guys upgraded.
Yes, it is a catered meal now.
Ah,
All of
fancy.
the activities and everything we provide. Yeah, it is a little bit different, but it still has that community feel.
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
really cool.
Yeah.
Very
Cool.
cool. Jennifer, thank you so much
And
and
thank you
everything
for
you do.
everything. Yeah, you
Oh
do
my
for
gosh. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
the Kansas City
Amazing.
community, your community. Like, you're a gift to us all.
Right. Seriously.
Yeah, I'm very lucky to be doing what I'm doing and to have so many people in my network helping out. So I'm
Wonderful.
thankful to them, and I appreciate you having me here.
Absolutely. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.